We are finally back from a long summer break, ready to rock Lausitzring. Welcome to the 8th race of the DTM season 2014. And today, even though the weather is terrible, it's going to be an exciting race because Marco Wittmann could actually win the championship today if he manages to do P4 or even better. So we'll see about that. But one man who really knows what it's like to be DTM champion is Bruno Spengler, 2012. You were a champion. Do you remember the night before, what went through your head, and especially the day of the race? Do you remember what you were thinking about?
Well, no, I don't remember exactly, but I'm pretty sure I was nervous. But, you know, I'm always nervous before every race. So I don't think it was too much different for me. I don't even think I slept pretty bad or pretty good, just normal, really. Of course, you have a lot of thoughts, you know. You really, in the morning, you get up and you're in this maximum concentration mood, and you really hope that everything is going to go right that day, and like you do for every race, basically. But it's definitely a very special day. The day you realize the championship, it's going to happen that day. It's a very interesting day, and that's something you want to live every day, actually. So Marco should enjoy that day. Yeah, from my side, I hope I can enjoy it as soon as possible again. This season has been a little bit up and down, but you know, it's not finished. We have a good race today, hopefully, and 2 races to go. But we'll see. You know, it will be a special day. Conditions are interesting today. Can happen a lot of things. I'm ready for it, and I guess Marco as well. And yeah, I wish for him and for BMW, especially, that the championship will be decided.
And you're starting from P17, so a fantastic race. Good luck. And now Bruno Spengler is taking us on a lap here at Lausitzring. Enjoy.
Hi guys, welcome here in Lausitzring. I will bring you now to a fast lap on this track. So here we come in the oval corner, which can be challenging in the rain sometimes if there is a lot of water on the track. Main straight, upshifting, it's pretty bumpy here on this main straight, as you can see. Now the braking point is very late and very tricky as well because it's bumpy through the whole braking phase, so that's a bit of a tricky side. Now we come here in the left-hander, just a little lift in 3rd gear, pretty quick corner. Just a little braking now for the right-hander, 2nd gear. Lift a bit for the left, still 2nd gear, and then early on the power, also difficult there because of the bumps. The next one is a interesting corner. You can brake very, very late, 50 at the 50 sign. And early on the power again, very bumpy the exit here. And we go into that fast right-hander, which is also tricky and bumpy, and important to be early on the power for the long straight behind. Could be overtaking there in the next corner. Now comes a heavy braking down to 2nd gear. Early on power, the car straight. The right-hander is flat here in 4th gear. Now downshift 2 gears and brake deep into the corner, up to the curb on the power. Then be early on the power and the car straight for the long straight, very important. A lot of overtakings will come here with the DRS during the race. And now we're back on start finish, and it wasn't a too bad lap, I would say. I do a last one.
I'm now here with Dieter Gass. 10 times you ended up on the podium, which is absolutely amazing. However, no victory this season. Why do you think is it so difficult for Audi this year to actually win a race?
That's a difficult question, actually. I mean, we have seen a very strong performance of most of our drivers all season. We have collected many podiums, as you said. But for some reason, we haven't managed really to get to the top spot at the end of the race. I think it starts to be a little bit annoying for us, really, because when you see the performance is there, when you see the whole team is there, and you always have somebody, for whatever reason, in front of you, it starts to be difficult to digest, yeah.
Now the Lausitzring is not exactly the favorite track of Audi. Last time you won here was 3 years ago with Martin Tomczyk. What has to happen today that you hopefully will win?
Yeah, I mean, I'm not so much looking into statistics and what has happened previous years on this very track. I'm looking at the race today, and if I look at the grid, we have 3 really extremely strong contenders right behind Pascal Wehrlein on pole position. and I think any of them is able to win the race. I think Matthias is in the best position at the start, which is very good to see. I'm really glad for him because he struggled a bit in the qualifying session so far this season. Now he is in top spot. We know what he can deliver in the races, so he's in a very good position to go for victory. But as well, we shouldn't neglect Timo and as well Jamie. Both of them were quite unlucky over this season, especially for Jamie, and over the past 1.5 years for Timo. So both of them are extremely hungry. They have a fast car, and really we will try to go for that victory.
I'm sure you will. Thank you very much. Best of luck.
Okay, here comes the starting grid here at the Lausitzring. Then Pascal Wehrlein from pole position, Matthias Ekström alongside him.
The second row of the grid is where you find Jamie Green and Timo Scheider, both in Audis.
Next row on the grid then features Danny Juncadella and Miguel Molina. Ignore the graphics with regards to the tyre colours because we're likely to be the number of cars on wet weather tyres.
Row 4, Marco Wittmann, champion-elect, and Gary Paffett alongside him.
Then we see the BMW of Timo Glock, and the current champion is Mike Rockenfeller.
Christian Vitores comes next. Alongside him, Mark Mate, Robert Wickens.
Eduardo Mortara and Vitaly Petrov. Best qualifying from Vitaly Petrov sees him on P14.
He's ahead of Maxime Martin and Bruno Spengler, the BMW drivers, only 15th and 16th.
Then we see the Adrian Tombay car, and alongside him is Antonio Felix da Costa.
They managed to outpace Nico Müller, but a penalised Augusto Farfus will start 20th.
Then we see Paul de Resta P21 and Joey Hand alongside.
And then at the very back of the grid, another penalised driver is Martin Tomczyk for BMW. Let's head back down to the grid and join Verena.
Yes, and I'm here with Pascal Wehrlein. It is youngster time, the youngest pole setter ever in the DTM history. And if you win today's race, you will be the youngest man to ever win the DTM. Are you more nervous at a race like this, knowing that?
No, I'm not nervous, but excited for sure. Now we have tricky conditions. We don't know yet if we go out on options or on wet tires. So today will be a very difficult race, and strategy-wise it will be also very difficult. So let's see and go for it.
All right, well, best of luck, Pascal, and back to you guys.
Thank you very much, Verena. So at 12:40 today, it was announced that wet tyres are admitted. David, alongside me now, the wet tyres means, of course, that this normal debate at the beginning of the race between whether you use options or primes has gone away, hasn't it?
To an extent, okay. Because if you were to go for the entire race in wet conditions and only use wet tyres, then that takes the problem out of your hands. But if you want to go onto a dry tyre, there is still the maximum laps available on the option, which is 25, and therefore the maximum on the prime of 27. So if you do, for example, start on wets and it dries up within 5 laps and you want to go onto the slick tyre, you still have to make sure that you don't go too many laps on the wrong set of tyre, if you like. You've got that maximum you can do on the 2. The real question mark is when people are going to make the mandatory pit stop, because you still will have to factor in a pit stop at some point, even if you're starting on those wet tyres.
As we look at the turbine, we can see the grid there of Wehrlein, who starts from pole position. Matthias Ekström alongside. Then we see Jamie Green and Timo Scheider, the first page there of the starting grid. And there is the second page. Number of drivers, as David was saying, have taken some penalties, and that for impeding exits in pit lane during qualifying. Now, the qualifying yesterday was cut short because of weather conditions. The weather conditions here today for the race, already before the race gets underway, are playing a part.
We've had a lot of heavy rain this morning, and so the drivers come to a circuit that is wet, but not torrentially wet. You could get away perhaps a few laps into the race thinking about slicks, but my suggestion would be everybody's going to have to start on wets. If you were on slicks, you'd have to be very tiptoey. But let's find out what the teams are contemplating. Jens Marquardt from BMW is with Verena.
Yes, here I'm with Jens Marquardt, who seems very relaxed, in a very good mood. You've got Marco Wittmann in P7, and today is going to be a crucial race because today can be decided if he's going to snatch a title or not. Of course, he still has 2 other races to go, if not. But how do you feel about that? Do you think about that? Is that the focus?
No, the focus is really on the race today. I mean, with the changing conditions, this is really an interesting hour that we have ahead of us. Hopefully an interesting hour for the spectators and TV viewers as well. And we'll just see. I mean, yeah, we hopefully have sorted out our strategy okay, and we'll see if a shower comes or not, and focus forward, and then we'll see what the end brings. So probably in the last lap, we'll have a look at what it all means.
Okay, now one thing, of course, our eyes are focusing on the tires. Is there anything about the strategy you can let us know? We just found out that Gary Peppett, for example, is going on blue. So what about Marco?
I think more or less everybody is going on wets because it's really wet. And I think to go on slick tires now is quite an adventure. But depending on whether shower moves in or not, we will definitely see at some stage then moving on to dry tires, and then it's going to be very interesting.
Right, well, we're looking forward to a very exciting adventure for you. Best of luck for the race, and back to you guys.
Well, thank you, Verena, for asking Jens Marquardt. The very topic that I was going to ask David alongside me here is anyone, if you're back, if you're a Farfus, if you're a D-Rester, maybe if you're a Tomczyk, would you take a gamble with the track conditions as they are at the moment? Would you take a gamble and go on onto a slick tyre? Jens Marquardt is saying absolutely not. He thinks everyone will be on wets.
I think he's right, because you would lose too much time early on.
Yep.
While it's still wet, whilst you're tiptoeing around, you would lose too much time. Danny Juncadella there, for example, is another one who is going to start on wets, and I think almost every car we come to now will be on wets. I mean, yeah, I understand what you mean behind the question about is it worth taking a gamble, but it's still so wet that you would lose too much time. And so let's say that eventually the track did start to come to you. You could be the best part of a lap behind, give or take. And so you'd really struggle to make that back unless there were a safety car.
But if the track dries out within 2 or 3 laps and somebody starts to think, do you know what, would you be in a better position because you've got those tyres up to temperature if you were a Farfus, if you were a D-Rester. From further back down the order, you'd have got those tyres up to temperature more quickly.
And then you buy places as other people pit ahead of you. But I just think it's too wet at the moment. They've only had, of course, the lap round to the grid. Things might start to be a bit different once they've had another sighting lap. Things might be drying. It may be that 1 or 2 people, like we saw at Ottersleben, gamble at the end of the green flag lap.
We were just looking at Jamie Green. Now, he's one of the ones that has fallen foul of running the option tyre for too long. You can only do that for a certain number of laps, can't you?
Now we're hearing from the grid that Eduardo Mortara is going to roll the dice and go on the slick tyre. He will start on options. That's his nominated tyre. Pascal Wehrlein, the man on pole position, goes wets. Well, I would have thought Mortara will lose too much time early on, and it may be even at the end of the warming up lap he thinks, no, that's wrong, and pits and goes back onto wets. We shall see, but that's what we're hearing from the grid, that just that one Audi is going to go on that set of tyres.
In a way, I'm almost glad, because I asked the question, I posed the question, somebody's prepared to... It's somebody perhaps further up the order, P13, than I thought would take that gamble, if I'm honest with you.
Exactly. I mean, you were posing the question about those at the back having a real punt. Well, there he is in mid-grid, and I bet that's been an interesting conversation in the team to get to that answer.
For somebody like Joey Hand right at the back of the grid, what would be the point of him not doing that, almost? Because he would lose... Well, as you say...
You're in jeopardy.
Yeah,
that's the problem. And Mortara, and there he is, look, on the option tyre. He is going to start on slicks, but it's going to be very tiptoey for him for the first few laps.
This is going to be... Now, bear in mind where Mortara is, points-wise.
Second equal with Ekstrom. He needs to do something different. It could be an inspired choice. It could be...
Well, we'll see.
Rather less so. We shall find out. The race itself is 52 laps. And they turn their way from the ADAC Curva, turn 1, onto the infield. This is this combination of the banked oval circuit and the road course on the inside. The infield got some nice fast-flowing bits. Admittedly, they're hairpins, but the corners are fast nonetheless, and they're wide corners. So with these weather conditions, and now this little joker in the pack, about one car starting on slick tyres, unless things change at the end of this warming up lap, then it is going to be interesting indeed. This, Dave, is how they line up.
Indeed. Pascal Wehrlein and Matthias Ekstrom lock out the front row. Then it's Jamie Green and and Timo Scheider. Danny Juncadella and Miguel Molina. And then it's Marco Wittmann, Gary Paffett, Timo Glock, Mike Rockenfeller, Christian Vittoris and Robert Wickens as we look at the first page. Then it's Edo Mortara. He's the one, that yellow graphic indicating that he's going onto the slick tyre. Vitaly Petrov, Maxime Martin. Then it's Spengler, Tombe, Felix da Costa, Muller, Farfus, De Resta, Hand, and Tomczyk. Here at the Lausitzring, as we reach the sharp end of the DTM Championship for 2014. We haven't even mentioned Marco Wittmann yet, who is starting from P7, fourth or better, David, and he becomes DTM champion.
And the pressure is off to an extent. He doesn't have to worry about it in this race because he's got 2 more still to go. So he can drive his own race and not have to worry too much. Yes, he'd like to do it here. He'd like to do it with a race win, I'm sure. There you're looking at the circuit. It is 3.478 kilometres long, 52 laps, 24 gear changes a lap, 7 left-handers and 5 right-handers. And it's wet, and it's greasy, and it's slippery. And looking down the pit lane, lots and lots of teams are getting ready with their tyre stacks should they need to change early in the race. Now, the temperature is not exactly warm, but it's not a cold day. There's very little wind, so that doesn't help to drive the circuit. So how long is it going to be before Mortara starts to gain places? Is he going to be on the pace right from the word go? Every team now is going to be judging its strategy against his pace on the early laps.
Okay, well, we are just seconds away from finding out because as the cars line up on the grid, we should give due credit to this man for having had an outstanding season and is in the position of perhaps, potentially becoming the DTM champion for 2014 here at the Lausitzring. Let's not lose sight of the fact that our pole sitter, Pascal Wehrlein, from a phenomenal qualifying yesterday, finds himself on pole position. Many congratulations to Pascal Wehrlein for doing that. Ekstrom alongside, and Eki will be hoping for a great start. I think he's going to dive towards the pit wall as soon as we start. We will see as the tension mounts in the Audi garage, the BMW garage, and of course that of Mercedes-Benz as well. We'll throw the lights up to the top of the screen for you. When the lights go from red out, we will be racing. This is Lausitzring, DTM is go. And all the cars with a very, very cautious getaway. Mike Rockenfeller from mid-order in the grid dives up the inside. Pascal Wehrlein, the man on the move here is Jamie Green.
Dreadful start by Ekstrom. He's gone backwards. Glock crowds Martin. It is Wehrlein from Juncadella going through turn 1 ahead of Jamie Green, who runs third. Mortara losing places, but Wehrlein it is who's converted pole into the race lead. And it's a Mercedes 1-2 with Jamie Green losing out because here comes Timo Scheider round the outside where he finds a little bit more traction. But Ekstrom from the wrong side of the track, the non-racing line, has made a bad start, and so too has Gary Paffett. He's dropped right down the order.
So Pascal Wehrlein, and here comes Marco Wittmann. We go on board with Marco Wittmann now. This is the man that could become the DTM champion here. They all get crowded through, but Pascal Wehrlein already has built up the gap.
Scheider got forced out wide and has lost places. Scheider is just ahead of Ekstrom. Ekstrom has got Wittmann behind him, but Wehrlein is getting away because Juncadella, look, is holding up Jamie Green, who now tries to make the move down to turn 8. Can't do it on the outside, but look at the lead that Wehrlein has pulled already.
So Jamie Green then looking very, very racy, isn't he? Brilliant qualifying from Jamie Green. He'd like to convert that and do extremely well in the race. We go on board with Jamie Green now behind Danny Juncadella. The back end of Juncadella's car just twitched a little bit. Does that offer up an opportunity to Jamie Green, who himself is now under pressure from Christian Vittoris?
Not yet, it doesn't, but if he gets the drive out of the next corner. Now, how about this? Wittmann is now being monstered by Molina, so he can't just attack Ekstrom. The race leaders work their way towards the end of the lap, and look, Mortara is flat last, so the slicks certainly are not ready yet. Juncadella loses out because there's an absolutely charging Timo Scheider coming over the line, and also Christian Vittoris is on a move, and Vittoris goes second, and Jamie Green up the inside for third. So Green is making progress. Down to fourth goes Juncadella, fifth at the end of the lap Scheider, sixth Ekstrom, seventh is Wittmann. 8th is Miguel Molina, 9th is Glock, and 10th is Rockenfeller, but Wehrlein is leading already by 3.1 seconds, and Mortara is already 15 seconds away from the leader.
So that really proves your point with regards to the tyres early on.
Losing too much time early on, you see, it's going to be hard to get that back. This is a replay of the opening lap and a spin for the BMW, which was Martin Tomczyk, who'd made a good start from last round the outside and got biffed by his teammate.
Yeah, Bruno Spengler there we saw from on board. So Wehrlein leading by, last time around it was 3.1 the margin. There you can see Pascal Wehrlein Then it is Christian Vittoris, then Jamie Green under investigation, then the incident between car number 9 and car number 10. Well, there's perhaps no surprise there, the Spengler-Tomczyk coming together.
And Rockenfeller has a little nibble at Molina there and just caught the back of the red Audi. There was almost a mirror image, if you like, of two cars from the same team colliding, but they survived that. But Rockenfeller is on his toes to try to get through here. But Wehrlein, leading for the first time, had his first pole position, youngest pole man in the championship, trying to get away. Rockenfeller now to the inside of Molina. He should have the drive coming out of the corner. He's got the tighter line. There's also Maxime Martin trying to go with them. Rockenfeller gains a place there. Farfus is on the move as well, isn't he, from low down, having been penalised for impeding a car leaving the pit lane yesterday. Now look at the way that Jamie Green is going, setting about Vittoris for second place, the Osserschleben winner, Christian Vittoris, in another wet, dry race that we had. Juncker is under attack from Timo Scheider, who's rediscovered his mojo this weekend after a torrid time at the Nürburgring. And Glock now looking for a way past Marco Wittmann.
So there you can see the all-yellow car of Timo Glock right behind Marco Wittmann, the championship leader. Pascal Wehrlein leading by very nearly 4 seconds. Boy, has he got away from the start of this race. We're on board then with Marco Wittmann, who is down there in P7 at the moment. He's got Timo Glock behind him, and right ahead of him, of course, he has Matthias Ekström. Goes off
through the gravel, slides out wide. The gravel is wet and compact. He can drive out the other side. The rallycross knowledge comes into effect to steer him onto the road, but he's down in 15th now behind Farfus, and of all the people you'd least expect to do that, it's Ekström, and barging his way up the inside there, Robert Wickens sorts out Miguel Molina.
So Ekström there appeared, there was no assist, was there? It was just himself. He carried too much speed and he wasn't able to make that turn and ends up in the gravel. As you say, his rallycrossing experience enabling him to get the car back out on track again.
Over the line comes Pascal Wehrlein. I'm going to throw a thought at you here. It's a long thought, so if it all kicks off again, go for it. If the road dries out sufficiently within the first 25 laps that people want to go onto slick tyres, they still have to factor in how many laps you can do on options and primes. Mortara, if it dries out to that level, may have saved himself a pit stop because he's already on the slick tyre, which might bring down that gap that he's currently lost because he's a long, long way down. He's not even come across the line yet. We are getting news of a drive-through penalty for Spengler for the contact on Tomczyk. Mortara has just gone across the line. He's half a minute behind the race leader. You've just been looking at the replays of Matthias Ekström going off, and very unlike him to do that.
Yes, and, well, Ekström, of course, was at the time ahead of Marco Wittmann, and Ekström closest to Wittmann in the points chart.
Jamie Green loses it, though, now, coming out of turn 8. He got the power down, and it's a long, long spin. He's caught it. He loses 1, 2 places and stays ahead of Wittmann. Not for long, he doesn't.
Well, that was... Well, Jamie just, again, carrying too much speed, I think, wasn't it? Just wasn't able to control it. So, well, after a great show from Jamie Green in the early stages of this race, he finds himself further down the order now. Here it is in replay.
Tried to attack, didn't he, coming onto the straight, but the power looked to have gone down just a fraction too soon. The car looped, there it goes, but thankfully nobody else involved, loses 3 places and fights back. The conditions now really taunting the drivers because it's not that wet, but it's still wet enough to trick you into thinking you can go quicker than you can.
To be fair, it's some measure of Jamie's ability that he was able to just spin that car around and keep it going. That was great to see. Here's Timo Scheider on Danny Juncadella, and there is Marco Wittmann,
who is in 5th, 1 more place, and he's where he needs to be. This is Spengler for the drive-through. Remember, we've got a Mercedes 1, 2, 3 at the moment. This a car that people keep saying isn't competitive. Well, it looks as though it is at the moment. Wehrlein is 6 seconds ahead, and Vittoris doing a very good job of stacking up everybody behind him and allowing the race leader to build a gap.
Well, to be fair now, Wehrlein has built up this huge gap. Now look here. There is Vittoris, and look how much Vittoris has been able to pull away. Juncadella, as you see, he's just backing them up, isn't he? Timo Scheider under a bit of pressure now from Marco Wittmann. Jamie Green, who recovered from that spin, is trying to further up the order as well, but he knows now how treacherous it is.
Ekström 14th has just gained 13th after the Spengler drive-through. Now Wittmann here needs to be careful because he's surrounded by the opposition, and he also needs to make sure that he doesn't get involved in an incident or a battle that might cost him points. He's trying to attack his way out of it. He's not giving away places. Wittmann looking quicker than Scheider. Scheider, for the meantime, is still stuck behind Juncker, and it is lap 5 out of 52, and Pascal Wehrlein is the leader as Jamie Green dives up the inside to get past Wittmann, and he has done it, has he? Well, he's on the inside line, coming into turn 12, but no, the BMW has the momentum and stays ahead.
Now, if you're Marco Wittmann at this stage in the race, you're absolutely right. You don't want to get caught up in any skirmishes, do you? You need to drive this with a cool head. Wittmann tries to... Jamie Green once again diving up the inside, and this time he does make it stick through turn 1, and he now goes past Marco Wittmann. You can see the back end of Wittmann's car just squirmish a bit. Paffett's had an off.
He was struggling anyway, wasn't he, down in 20th place. He's back on the road now, though, but more time lost for him. That's going to throw him down into 22nd, potentially. So something went desperately wrong for Gary off the line, didn't it? Because he was 8th on the grid. You're riding with Wittmann, now staring at the back of Jamie Green. So the change for 5th has happened, as you saw. Green is up 1 place. He's gone well here all weekend. He knows the track well, done a lot of testing here in his DTM career. Never won here, but this is how he gained that place, through on the inside of this man, Marco Wittmann.
And at the moment, as we see it again in replay, there's where Jamie Green just dived up the inside to the left-hander, which is turn 1 here. Pascal Wehrlein, 7.3 seconds in 5 or 6 laps. That's amazing for Pascal Wehrlein.
Mortara, 43 seconds behind the leader. He's losing 6 seconds a lap, but unless they're hoping they can get away with 1 less pit stop than the others, which might be the plan, we'll have to see how it pans out. We still don't know what the weather has in store for us before the end of the race, but for the moment he's very distant, but we'll see whether the race comes back to Mortara. It is a gamble. At the moment it's not working because the road is still wet enough for you to need those wet tyres.
Here's Mike Rockenfeller on Timo Glock, just behind Marco Wittmann and Jamie Green. And Marco Wittmann just having a little nibble once again at Jamie Green there. Green, of course, had got past Wittmann.
Scheider attacking Juncker as well for 3rd. The Mercedes, which is the cork in the bottle here, really, has got the double champion right up behind. Scheider in the black Audi. He's being caught by Green, taking Wittmann and Glock with him.
And Juncker is doing a fantastic job for Mercedes, isn't he?
Yes, absolutely. He's got better and better and better in his DTM career. He was a real star in Formula 3, and he's doing a grand job at the moment. Ekstrom, incidentally, up into 13th place now. And Farfus doing a good job. He's up to 12, having started way, way back 20th.
Antonio Felix da Costa has gone, and he's beached there. He ain't coming back from that. Now here is Danny Juncadella, and this is where he's doing an exceptional job for Mercedes-Benz, because what he's doing is allowing Vittorius and Wehrlein to get away up the road, and he's holding everybody up behind. Timo Scheider keeps nibbling away, trying to find a way past, but in treacherous conditions like that, that is oh so difficult.
The yellow flags are out in the first sector. That's where da Costa has gone off the road, and it's sort of out of turn 2 that he spun onto the grass. There's an awful lot of grass in that area, so he's out of harm's way, but it's not easy for anybody to get to him. So the yellow flags are out in that first sector as the leaders now work their way up towards the end of lap number 8. Wehrlein goes across the timing line, and we wait and we wait and we wait. Farfus now lining up to try to make a move and gain a place. This is Rockenfeller's view. He is on the back of Glock. Wehrlein is leading by 9.4 seconds now.
So on board with Mike Rockenfeller, who not able to make a move on Timo Glock, this time of asking into turn 1, through turn 2, then the squiggles through 3, 4, 5, back out onto the oval, as we can see Antonio Felix da Costa's car being hastily removed there. Did half wonder whether we might see a safety car there.
And did he get a tap? Yes, he did, and Adrian Tombay was the tapper, wasn't he? Yes. So there may be a penalty heading Tombay's way. I think, actually, in fairness, da Costa was probably losing it anyway when he came across the front of Tombay, but there was certainly contact, and we understand that there is also now an investigation between Muller and Gary Paffett. Contact between those two, and Bruno Spengler has just been in and has changed onto slick tyres. So Spengler, who is a long way back after his drive-through, has gone onto the prime tyre, but he's gone onto slick, and that's going to be interesting now.
And there you can see the white markings on the tyre of Bruno Spengler's car. Okay, here is Christian Vittorius. And now Danny Juncadella, we saw just in shot, you could just see the car through Jamie Green's windscreen there. And Green with Marco Wittmann back on his tail once again.
Just had the message line as well, confirming what we thought. Torbay and Da Costa's incident under investigation as Juncadella comes across the line. Wittmann looking a bit more toey now, isn't he, on the back of Jamie Green in the orange Audi, heading down towards the ADAC curve up. Turn 1, Wittmann here brakes and turns left.
So Marco Wittmann then is currently P6, as we said right at the start. Needs P4 or better to take the championship here at the Lausitzring. On board with Jamie Green now, who is just ahead of him in P5. Ahead of Jamie Green is the car of Timo Scheider. And you can just see that Audi squirm a bit from the back end as they come out back onto a section of the original oval track. This is how Mike Rockefeller and Timo Glock. And Rocky getting past Glock there. That wasn't without a little love tap, was it?
I've seen more subtle moves.
Right.
But it worked. There it is from another angle. Robert Wickens thinks I might gain 2 places here, or they might wipe me out. But there is the change. And so Glock losing out because he falls behind the Mercedes as well. Just look at this long line of cars now, all queued up. Juncadella, then Scheider, Green, Wittmann, Rockenfeller, Wickens, Glock. And Rockenfeller is the mover in the pack, isn't he?
All of a sudden, Marco Wittmann now, the Rocky has been released, is under a bit of pressure from the current champion, Mike Rockefeller. Let's see him at work then inside that car of his, and he's trying to find a way past Marco Wittmann, and he does it. Dives up the inside, and he's made that move stick. Marco Wittmann's car just squirming a little bit on the back end as well.
So that's the change for 6th. Of course, that is not where Wittmann needs to be to win the championship. He's about to lose out to Robert Wickens, who comes storming up on the inside, and Wickens tries to get past the pair of them, but Rockenfeller defends, but it's another spot lost for Wittmann.
So Wittmann at the moment going backwards. Now, you know, he's having to drive this very, very sensibly. He doesn't want to get involved in anything which is going to cause him big issues, because of course he goes into this with a commanding lead in the championship. Yes, it is mathematically possible for him to win this championship here at the Lausitzring by finishing P4 or better.
Replay of the start. Gary Paffett struggles away, doesn't he? The side of the grid that he is on is not the racing line, so you're always going to struggle a bit there because it's where there will be more water. Of course, there's only been a little bit of racing since we had the rain and these cars came on track, but Gary Paffett really did struggle off the line and went backwards, so that was why he'd lost a lot of ground early on. But a great start by Wehrlein to get himself early doors ahead of Juncadella. Hans-Jürgen Abt watching on, having had a win in China in Formula E yesterday. He's back in time to watch DTM. Bit jet lag, possibly.
We did wonder, didn't we?
Bruno Spengler's start. Good getaway by Spengler. Worked his way through traffic. Maxime Martin ahead. You can see Mortara going backwards.
Yes.
Recently married Edo Mortara, going backwards because of him being on the slick tyre. And then round the outside comes Vitaly Petrov, who just stays ahead of Spengler. That was brave stuff, actually, by the Russian. And then this was the Rockenfeller move on Wittmann, wasn't it, to launch himself up the inside, heading back towards the banking. And he got the drive out of the corner. Rockenfeller's view once more. Wittmann's car looking a little bit nervous in comparison to the Audi, but Rockenfeller sees that gap.
Yes.
And Robert Wickens tried to go through as well, didn't he? He made the move on the inside down towards turn 1. Rockenfeller defends, but Wickens still able to get past Wittmann. And there was contact against Rockenfeller from Robert Wickens, who did, in the dive to the first corner, muscle away through by the look of it. And indeed, he's now up into 6th place. And Wittmann tried to come back at Rockenfeller, but to no avail. This was Wickens' view. Just a little nudge, and that's enough to unsettle Rockenfeller and spear him out wide. Is that going to be under investigation, I wonder, as well?
Be altogether surprised by that. I wouldn't, but well, Wehrlein now at the front has a margin of 11.2 seconds. What a cushion to have at this stage of the race. There on the left-hand side of the screen, the after-start ranking, as you can see. Vitoris
up 9 places. Farfus and De Resta up 10. So they've all been busy drivers, and of course Ekstrom has dropped 10 places thanks to his off through the gravel. Gary Paffett's dropped 12 because of his bad start. Mortara 8 because of the tyre choice. Now, how is Spengler getting on relative to Mortara? He's lapping a little bit slower at the moment because his slicks won't yet be as warm, if there's any warmth at all, in them compared to Mortara's tyres, because they've been on for longer, and they are still a long way back. They're giving away towards 8 seconds a lap. So the 1, 2, 3 at the moment,
Mercedes-Benz and the 1 and 2, the gaps that they've been able to build over the first stages of this race. Really, really impressive from Pascal Wehrlein and Christian Vittoris. Then Danny Juncadella still doing a good job, in my opinion, in stacking everyone up behind him. No one is able to mount a charge on neither Vittoris or Wehrlein because they can't get past Danny Juncadella.
He is a second ahead of Scheider, so if anything now, it almost looks like he has the pace to be able to gap the opposition. Scheider is the man nearest to him, and Jamie Green has dropped back. You know, he was part of that group. It was a long line when we looked a few laps ago. Now the cars are rather more singular. There is Edo Mortara still struggling for traction. The Italian is running in 21st place, leading what you might call Class B for those on the slick tyres, and life is far from easy. I mean, that car just does not want to bite, does it? There's so little traction. The danger for him is that he might drop off the lead lap before we get to pit stops. There is Spengler behind him, coming up towards the timing line, but they both are struggling on these track conditions on the slick tyres now.
And there, as you can see, the Mercedes comes into the picture as well. We saw that as Bruno Spengler and Edo Mortara, and the point you make, as you say, they could drop down an entire lap, couldn't they?
I think they will on this lap. I mean, Wehrlein is nearly with them, so it's going to happen imminently, isn't it, as you look at the BMW battle here. Glock versus Farfus. Farfus is driving a great race, and Jamie Green is under attack as well now from Robert Wickens. Glock really having to defend against his BMW mark mate Farfus down to turn 1. Jamie Green for Audi, keeping at bay Robert Wickens. Lausitzring winner coming now up towards the return to the oval part of the circuit. You have this sequence of corners at the start of the lap on the infield, and then briefly it's back onto the oval part of the track. There is Juncadella ahead of Scheider, but Green now is under attack. In these conditions around here, the Mercedes looking very competitive.
Very much so, very much so. So Wehrlein leading by just under 11 seconds, and indeed has got past.
Green's off, he's run wide, he's done exactly what Ekstrom did at the same part of the circuit, just drifts out a little bit too wide, gets on the greasier part of the circuit, slithers off the road. He's given a place back to Wittmann, for example. That's Jamie's second off of the race. So Glock has come past him, look, Farfus has come past him, now also De Resta comes by, and Ekstrom tries to get round him on the outside, and is he going to be able to do it? Molina tries to come through as well. All that traffic has got past Jamie Green, and Ekstrom, who needs to get by, is being defended against by Jamie Green's Audi. Farfus looking for a way past Glock. He almost runs out of road. He's got De Resta right up behind him. It's a very busy race indeed, this, and the sideways Green is keeping Ekstrom behind him.
So there we can see it from onboard Robert Wickens. As you say, all he needs to do is just put one wheel onto that really greasy, slippery, and that exactly, it's almost a carbon copy of what Ekstrom did, isn't it?
As I said, same part of the circuit, so Jamie Green digs himself out, and of course it was coming out of that corner earlier on that he looped it and had his spin, so poor old Jamie in the walls a little bit, and it's more places lost, so he might be able to recover over the course of the remaining laps. We still don't know what the different strategies may do to help drivers, but just at the moment there must be a lot of head scratching going on to see what can be done about Wehrlein. 10.6 seconds is the advantage. Now Vittoris lapping quicker in the first sector. We are now getting a driving standards flag for Robert Wickens for pushing another car. That will be against Rockenfeller. Green's view, and he almost clobbers the back of Glock going off the oval there up at turn 7, because oh so close did he get to the BMW. Ekstrom is still right up behind him as well, and Ekstrom is on the tail of Jamie Green, running together. Miguel Molina looks to the inside in the red Audi. De Resta has made a bit of progress, look, because he's got himself in the white Mercedes ahead of Glock in the yellow BMW. It's all happening except for the top two.
Extraordinary. So as we continue to watch this, Jamie Green now on the back of Timo Glock. Now, I was very, very surprised that Jamie Green didn't almost allow Ekstrom to go past him, but he certainly didn't. He was defending hard. So, well, the way it looks at the moment, Wehrlein, Vittoris, Juncadella, the 1, 2, 3. Timo Scheider is P4. We're on board with Jamie Green at the moment. Now, in P7 is Marco Wittmann.
He comes over the timing line. Now bear in mind that his rivals for the championship, 12th and out of the points Ekstrom, and 21st and well out of the points Mortara. So some more computations needed to be done about what happens if they don't score. But as the leaders now work their way once more through the infield here, we are on to lap number 15, and Wehrlein's advantage of 10.6 seconds is looking pretty good because he is only being caught by 6,000ths by Vitoris on the last lap. Down the pit lane comes Nico Müller, and he comes in rather slowly, and he heads to the team. It's a retirement for him, and disappointment. So Nico Müller is out as Jamie Green is ahead of Timo Glock. Or is he? Because Glock's got the inside line on the switchback, but Jamie Green goes round the outside. This has been his bogey corner, but this time he gets it absolutely spot on.
Well, you have to say, for the 2 offs that Green has had, still charging, isn't he?
Absolutely. He's not given up yet, nor has Ekstrom, because he's having a go to get past Glock as well, working their way now up towards the completion of the lap. Ahead of them, Farfus has scarpered. Farfus is having a great run here.
There was a little touch there between Ekstrom and Glock. Glock got the back end out, and not only does Ekstrom go through, but also Molina as well. Now, there was a touch between Ekstrom and Glock. I'm absolutely sure of it. You could see one of the little fins fly off the Ekstrom car as they head onto the start-finish straight. Pascal Wehrlein now leading by just under 11 seconds.
And with Wittmann in 7th and both Ekstrom and Mortara out of the points, then if things stayed as they were, he would have a 70-point advantage at the end of the race, and you've got 50 up for grabs, 25 for a win at Zandvoort and Hockenheim, so he could still do it even from here. That was that little nudge you were talking about between Glock and Ekstrom. Ekstrom is doing his best to fight back from his earlier dramas. Brave stuff around the outside, and Miguel Molina goes with him, and Maxime Martin also tries to buy into that in the blue and white Samsung BMW. That was Green up the inside of Timo Glock. And it is a very, very dramatic race. As ever, you can anticipate this with wet conditions. The Audi personnel on the Pratt perch is getting a bit concerned about life. Right, now, I suspect we might have had a bit more shuffling on this lap because Mike Rockenfeller has been busy, and over the timing line comes Pascal Wehrlein. Let's just run through the order because Wehrlein's advantage, really now, this race is looking like his to lose. Unless he makes a mistake, he's going to be good to the end, I think, with this advantage. But it has come down a bit, 8.7 seconds against Vitoris now, so the gap has come down a little bit. We are having a replay of a small error by Pascal Wehrlein, and this is why he's dropped a little bit of time. Yes, went deep, got a wheel onto the grass, caught it. As I say, it's his race to lose, and it's little things like that that can all go against you. 3rd is Junckadea, 4th is Scheider, 5th is Wickens, 6th is Wittmann, 7th is Rockenfeller, 8th is Farfus, 9th is De Resta, 10th is Green now. And this battle is Marco Wittmann versus Mike Rockenfeller for 6th position. So Wittmann has gone back ahead of him, of course, therefore, and he is doing his best now to retake the place. So Wittmann up into 6th spot, therefore looking even more secure for the championship. And Bruno Spengler has gone a lap down now in the BMW, so too Edo Mortara, although he has just done a personal best in the sectors, but still the lap times of those on slicks nowhere near those on wets.
This a replay then from onboard Mike Rockenfeller. And that is how Wittmann came through like a steam train. And Marco Wittmann then passing Mike Rockenfeller, and there you see Wittmann into shot now, P6.
Maxime Martin, Adrian Tombay and Daniel Junckadea are all under investigation for not slowing sufficiently in a yellow flag zone. And of course, of them, Junckadea is the most significant because he's running in 3rd place. There is Martin Tomczyk ahead of Tombay, who's another of those under investigation. And so in the blue and white BMW there, the Moscow winner Maxime Martin. Joey Hand at the back of that shot, turning his way through. We're on lap 18 out of the 52, 70 minutes, the maximum time allowed for these races. It could be heading towards that, and there is the troubled Spengler on the slick prime tyre. Of course, you've also got within the little contest between Spengler and Mortara, one on the prime and one on the option, but Spengler's race now is, to all intents and purposes, over, I fear. He's lost so much time with the drive-through and this tyre choice. It's going from bad to worse for him. Now he's losing more and more time. Martin loses a place down at turn 1 because Tomczyk goes up the inside and Tombay goes through as well as Martin slides out wide.
Yeah, so 2 places down in 1 there. Vitaly Petrov, who is running P17. Here comes Marco Wittmann then, running in P6, and that would be enough the way things are out on track at the moment, as Vitaly Petrov there just having a nibble at Maxime Martin, and now Vitaly Petrov dives to the inside, and he's going to make that position his.
Something's happened to Martin over the last lap or so,
Yes.
hasn't it? Because suddenly he's losing places hand over fist. The lead gap is just creeping up slightly once again. Wehrlein over Vitoris as the drivers work their way now, looking for the wetter parts of the road significantly on that section of the circuit, down towards the end of the lap. Glock ahead of Tomczyk. He's made good progress up from the rear of the grid. He's got Tombe behind him as well as the cars then now work their way to the end of lap number 19. Wehrlein is 8.9 seconds now ahead of Vitoris.
There we're seeing Glock
Runs
losing
wide.
out.
Yeah, Tomczyk passed him, Tombe passed him, so Glock struggling there. It's the drive out of the corner, not enough traction. And again, look, you can see more and more of the drivers thinking about where the wet parts of the road are. And Ekstrom is ahead of Jamie Green, so that puts him into the top 10. So there's a point there for Ekstrom. He's salvaging something. Don't rule him out yet. There is still a long way to go in these treacherous conditions.
And these conditions, I mean, the track just doesn't appear to be drying out at all, does it?
Not much. I mean, we are getting personal best sectors, but only now and again. There's no pattern to it. You're quite right. What we are seeing is that on different laps, different drivers will suddenly seem to be going quicker. Whether that's down to car setup, some have perhaps set the cars up for a fully wet road or a drying track. We have a drive-through penalty for Maxime Martin, for Adrian Tombe, and also for Vitaly Petrov, and for Daniel Juncadella. So the man that is third, significantly, Juncadella, is being given a drive-through penalty.
He's just clattered the wall, as you can see there in replay.
And also being given a drive-through is Robert Wickens. So third and fifth get drive-throughs.
So there, Daniel Juncadella is going to lose his podium, isn't he, with that drive-through penalty. Once the drivers have been advised of that drive-through penalty, you have to take it within 3 laps of that advice being given. So as we see the cars head down now, the boards being hung out from the pit lane, as you can see, there is, well, in comes Tombe, Glock, Petrov and Martin.
Why is Glock coming in?
Well, it's not a drive-through penalty for Glock, is it?
He's got a problem, perhaps. Maybe it's damage, because I think they're waving him to the garage.
Yeah,
looks as though that's the end of the race for Timo Glock. So, problem for the yellow BMW. So, Glock's BMW out of the race. So, it wasn't a penalty problem, but he came in with all those serving their drive-throughs. So, the order is shuffled yet again.
Yes, it is. And whilst that order was shuffling around, Pascal Wehrlein, who now is 9 seconds to the good ahead of Vitoris. And there is the car of Danny Juncadella, the man that, well, at this stage looked likely for a podium potentially. Not going to happen now with that drive-through penalty.
Although there is a long way to go. You never know what might pan out in these conditions. Never say never. Robert Wickens comes in now to serve his drive-through. So that's another Mercedes driver in strife. So at the end of the next lap, we'll start to get a better idea of who is where. Bear in mind, of course, that Juncadella had quite a big advantage, and a drive-through doesn't lose you as much time here because you actually shortcut the lap. You take quite a chunk off the last corner by coming into the pit lane. Yeah. And so the timing screen still has him down in third place. There is Robert Wickens, who makes his way down the pit road now, but we'll get a true idea of the order at the end of the next lap. Jamie Green has only just gone through. There, look, you can see Wickens is going to rejoin in that battle pack that includes Rockenfeller, and so there he is, right on the tail of Mike Rockenfeller. That's going to put him in 7th place. He's not lost too much, has he?
No. There is Jamie Green. Tomczyk there. And Robert Wickens now up the inside of Mike Rockenfeller. Going to dive through here. Mercedes as a brand here. The conditions really coming to Mercedes as now Paul di Resta on Augusto Farfus is looking really, really aggressive, isn't he? We're on board with Mike Rockenfeller. He's just been passed by Robert Wickens. And now Augusto Farfus under real pressure from Paul di Resta.
Farfus tries to get up the inside of Rockenfeller and should do it.
Here's Juncadella taking his drive through.
Yeah, he's in now, yeah.
Let's see where he comes back out. You're absolutely right in that the pit lane here is such that it does provide a slow but shortcut, doesn't it?
Yeah, he's going to join in that group, isn't he, I think, because a full pit stop is 21 seconds, so a drive-through is going to be fractionally shorter than that, so he might well be able to stay within that top 6. Timo Scheider, incidentally, has just done a personal best lap. He, of course, has just inherited 3rd place, but he did the best of anybody in the middle sector, and so as back on track now goes Daniel Juncker. He's only lost 1 place. He's still ahead of Wittmann. So he may temporarily have lost his podium, but he could well get that back because he's still in the mix.
Well, we're on board with Robert Wickens, who's now attacking the number 23 car of Marco Wittmann. And Robert Wickens looking really, really racy. P6 at the moment. Wittmann ahead of him is P5. Wickens is just all over the back of that BMW. Now, of course, what Wittmann needs not to do is just for there to be any contact between him and Robert Wickens. And Robert Wickens is... pressure is mounting on Marco Wittmann ahead. Under investigation then Mike Rockenfeller and Timo Glock.
Spengler in again, onto the options now. Well, they've tried everything as Wickens goes up the inside of Marco Wittmann, but Wittmann will have the inside line for the next corner, so he stands his ground. But here comes Wickens right round the outside. He finds a bit more traction. Fantastic move.
Well, Robert Wickens there, an absolute brilliant charge, wasn't it? Where there should be less grip, he felt confident, he was able to stay committed with it, and look, he's just absolutely sailed past Marco Wittmann, and is already 3 car lengths up the road.
You're on board with Wittmann then as he comes over the line, but Robert Wickens absolutely flying here as he comes over the line. But you're absolutely right about how good the Mercedes look collectively here. De Resta is working his way up the order, and we're heading towards pit stop time, aren't we now? Driving standards flag now for Rockenfeller against Glock. But as we get towards pit stop time, if it is dry enough, people are going to want to go onto the option tyre because that's the quicker tyre. Rockenfeller's view of Wickens making his move up the inside of Wittmann. It's fascinating to see how different drivers and different cars have their good periods of the race. You know, we suddenly see one driver making progress and then he plateaus and somebody else starts to make progress, and it can only really be down in part to car setup as well. Some, as the road dries, are starting to get faster, some better on a wetter road and others set up to go better on a drying track. You see, Scheider, in the last couple of laps, is absolutely storming because he keeps doing the absolute best in the middle sector. So Timo Scheider's Audi, running in 3rd position, is certainly one to watch. The lead gap is still a monster one as Wehrlein and Vitoris come over the line. It's been hovering around the 9-second mark. It's down to 8.6 now, but it's still good.
Which is pointing to the fact that the whatever setup, whatever Mercedes have done, the conditions absolutely working for that brand of car today.
Now there is the lapped Spengler. Scheider, you see, absolute best in Sector 2, personal best in Sector 3 on the wet tyres. So there's the evidence that you don't want to go yet onto slicks, because if towards the midpoint of the race you're still able to do absolute best sectors on a pretty well-used set of wet tyres.
And they are. They're 23 laps old now, aren't
exactly. It shows you what the track conditions are like.
Well, there we are. The track not coming to those that are on slick tyres. Timo Scheider proving that, and he's P3 ahead Vitoris, and then P1 is Pascal Wehrlein. We're on board with Mike Rockenfeller now, who's been shown the black and white flag for his little skirmish earlier on. Marco Wittmann then is P6. Here comes Paul De Resta on Mike Rockenfeller.
That looked easy. Up the inside. Again, a Mercedes.
Yes.
As the race wears on, looking stronger and stronger. So it's Wehrlein, Vitoris, Scheider, Juncker. They are 4th, and contact in the background. Jamie Green has come to grief. And he's not the only one, because I think involved in that as well is Martin Tomczyk. Tomczyk tagged by Jamie Green. Poor old Jamie. He's having a really, really busy race, but for all the wrong reasons.
Yes, we go back on board with Jamie. We'll get a replay of that incident, I feel sure, but Jamie Green having a torrid time of it today, isn't he?
There's Mike Rockenfeller, and straight away the Tomczyk Green incident is under investigation. We'll have a look at the replay. Jamie Green turns in and just braked a little bit too late, tagged the back of Tomczyk. I don't think that was deliberate. I think it was just that he was a little bit too quick into the corner, just brushed the back. But as they're turning through the corner, they're both pretty much unsettled. It doesn't take much to spin them around.
And, well, as we could see. So
now, Vitouris has just taken 6/10 out of Wehrlein's lead gap. Wittmann is under attack from De Resta. Here you have got two drivers who could win the championship as 24-year-olds. That was the age De Resta won it at. Wittmann will be 24 if he wins it this year, although when De Resta won it, he was younger by a few months than Wittmann may be, even if he were to win it today. So you've got the youngest ever versus the second youngest ever elect in Marco Wittmann, but Paul De Resta is about to make his move up the inside, and that Mercedes, as the race is wearing on, is just getting stronger and stronger and stronger, isn't it? Up the inside of Wittmann he goes there, absolutely side by side, diving through at turn 6 off the banking, and the Mercedes goes through.
it is an incredible machine, isn't it? And we're seeing that now in the early stages of the race. Paul De Resta wasn't showing the pace that the car is now.
Well, he did have a lot more work to do because he was 21st on the grid. So, you know, he's worked his way up from there. But you're right, it's getting stronger and stronger now. And it's interesting that Rockenfeller has been stuck behind Wittmann for the bulk of the last few laps. Other people have caught and passed him and pulled away, caught and passed Wittmann and pulled away. Another example there in De Resta, but Rockenfeller can't do it himself.
No.
Or the Audi can't enable him to do it himself, as there De Resta slides a little bit. Rockenfeller has got Farfus up behind him, and then also is Matthias Ekström. The Audis looking collectively to struggle here. The one exception to that is Scheider, who is still up there in the top 3, and the fastest lap of the race has just been done by Juncker.
Okay.
You following all this?
Yes, I think I am. So we're on board with Mike Rockenfeller. And Marco Wittmann really hugging the inside of the circuit, then through the left hand of this turn 1 into turn 2, then 3. As you can see, it snakes there. Brilliant shot that we're able to bring you here. Staying on board with Mike Rockenfeller right now, though, as he gets ever closer to the Marco Wittmann car ahead. Now, interestingly here, De Resta hasn't got as far up the road as perhaps I expected him to do so. So Marco Wittmann trying to stay with him here. Here is the championship prediction on screen for you. Wittmann on 126 points. Then Christian Vitouris on 59. Then it would be Rocky and Matthias Ekström on 57, with Edo losing out on a point and dropping all the way back down to P5.
Okay, Mortara comes in then, and another set of slicks goes on. So they've gone from the option to the prime, but even though the fastest lap has just recently been done by a car on wets, keeping him onto slicks. So we're on lap 27. Wehrlein is being caught by Vitouris. The gap is down to 6.9 seconds. We need those two to get together and scrap to enable Scheider to join the mix as well, because after the third place car, you're 9 seconds, give or take, before fourth. All of these battles we've been looking at the bottom end of the top 10 have been great, but I'm afraid they've enabled the leaders to build a huge advantage. So at the moment, Wehrlein and Vitouris and Scheider are so far ahead that it really needs a safety car to bring the rest into the game. Now it is pit stop time, so Farfus is in, Ekström is in, Jamie Green is in. And what are they going to do? Wets or slicks? We need to keep an eye on this and see what's going on. Wets have come off Farfus, and he's gone on to the option.
Interesting. Right, here's Ekström.
Option.
Yep, going on to options as well. Now, remind me, how many seconds ago was it you were saying about the fastest lap?
Not that many.
No.
But interestingly, Spengler has just suddenly done the absolute best in the first sector.
Oh.
So now it becomes even more enthralling, this race, doesn't it? So if you've gone onto those tyres now, Maxime Martin is on the options as well.
And there was an issue there. As you can see, the gun was actually still on the wheel. And that is it. Well,
wheel nut's not tight, is it?
No,
the wheel's coming off.
The team was so sharp on that replay, the wheel is off, isn't it?
Yeah,
about to come off.
You could just see a little puff of smoke where the bodywork was fouling against a tyre, and Ekström, with effectively a three-wheel car, doesn't gamble on limping it round to the pits. He's parked it. So the team so quick, but collectively it all goes wrong in the pit stops. Right, Scheider is in. Does that go on to options? Let's wait and see. Yes, it does. Juncker is in. Options.
So now under investigation is Ekström for an unsafe release, of course. And in comes Marco Wittmann.
can start talking about the champion-elect. He goes onto the option tyre. Pit lane very, very busy indeed. Now you can see as we've got to the part where you can now go onto the option tyres and run to the end. But interesting that everybody is going on to them, ready for the road to dry a little bit more rather than going on to another set of wets. Wittmann is ahead of Rockenfeller, which is how they came in, and Molina is right up behind them. But we are now getting absolute bests. Jamie Green, Sector 3, has done an absolute best. Spengler, absolute best in Sector 1. Still, the battle rages on. Farfus ahead of Rockenfeller and also ahead of Molina, who runs out wide. But Farfus has gained there on the pit stop. So
in comes Pascal Wehrlein.
Yeah. Crucial pit stop, this. Christian Vitoris will take over the lead. He needs to put in some qualifying laps effectively to try and reduce the deficit. Onto options goes Wehrlein.
So Wehrlein now on his way out of the pit lane.
Jamie Green, a drive-through penalty for pushing another car. Comes thick and fast, this. Back onto the circuit then goes Pascal Wehrlein. So now we start to see, at the end of the next lap, the flying lap times being offered up by the recent wave of drivers to go onto slicks.
So there is Pascal Wehrlein with the Guix livery. We're on board with Marco Wittmann right now, who has been in. And I think the first few corners with those tyres on, as we see, well, Matthias Ekström walking away. The hopes and aspirations for this season are dashed.
They are. It's been a frustrating season for him. He started off well at Hockenheim, but it's been frustrating ever since. But we are now seeing the best lap of the race be done by Jamie Green. For Audi gives them some solace. Now this is the replay of Ekström's pit stop. On went the wheel.
The gun is still on.
Yeah,
the gun is still on there.
But the car was dropped down. It's not really Ekström's fault. He didn't go too soon. As soon as the car is dropped, that's when you go. The team dropped it down too early. And there, the wheel trying to part company with the car. It wasn't on. And so, although Ekström it is who ends up out of the race and is reported to the stewards, it was the team that dropped the car down a fraction too early that was the problem.
Here comes Christian Vitoris now. Of course, he momentarily took the lead. He's going on to options as well.
Spengler, fastest lap of the race. So the slicks are working now. This is going to be a very interesting part of the race to see in terms of car setup, whether putting them onto slicks and onto a drier road is going to have any effect, and much effect in some cases. So you've got Vitoris having given the lead back to Wehrlein. Timo Scheider we are still looking at as being in the mix as well. Now Juncker has done the fastest lap of the race, a 27.3 with his slicks up to temperature. So now Robert Wickens does the fastest lap of the race, having gone on to slicks. The timing screen is looking like Blackpool Illuminations, because as every car crosses the timing sector beams, they go quicker. It's green if it's a personal best, it's purple if it's an absolute best. It's getting more and more spectacular as Tombay comes in. He's already had a drive through. This is the regulation tyre stop to go onto the options, of course, and away he goes. So at the end of the next lap, we'll just run through the order because it's been changing all the time with these pit stops. Back into the race goes Tombay. Puts himself on track. Now carries on the fight. He's going to be ahead of Jamie Green, isn't he? This is Wittmann's view. He's fallen back behind Farfus now, who really has benefited on the pit stops. De Resta is on a quick lap, running in 7th. He's now up into 6th with the pit stop for Tombay. De Resta absolute best in Sector 1. Wittmann, though, coming back at Farfus.
Yes, Wittmann there in the Ice Watch livery. Ahead of him, Castrol Edge car of Augusto Farfus. So P7 and P8 that we look at now. Now, I would suggest that presumably or probably it shouldn't be too difficult for Wittmann to get past Augusto Farfus. There's Rockenfeller, Jamie Green, and then we see Molina and Joey Handy's P12.
Juncker fastest lap of the race in the 26s, but you've got Paul De Resta absolutely flying as well a bit further back. Jamie Green we know is quick also, but he's trying to recover from myriad dramas as over the timing line then goes the leading group. Jamie Green heads down the pit lane because he's got this drive-through for pushing another car, so Jamie Green falls down the order even more. De Resta does now set the fastest lap. He's the first driver into the 25s now. Paul De Resta into the 1:25, so certainly the road is drying.
Well, it's taken a long while to start to dry, hasn't it? And perhaps that drying line has not come as quickly as we expected. The reason then that Jamie Green gets that drive-through penalty that you just saw him serving. Just a little non-malicious tag there, wasn't there?
I would say that was a bit harsh because he penalised himself by spinning.
Yes.
I know Tomczyk spun, but Jamie didn't gain out of all of that. But anyway, rules are rules. He cops the drive-through penalty. He takes it. He's back on track, and he will be in 15th place, just ahead of Gary Paffett now. A race that started off looking pretty promising for Jamie Green. And he's been a busy boy this afternoon. He has now been through the pit lane twice. And he's had a few more spins on top of that, so he's been busy. Wehrlein is 7.4 seconds ahead of Vitoris.
Well, just seen through the corner of my eye, Marco Wittmann has got past Augusto Farfus, which is perhaps no surprise, is it? And there is Maxime Martin, but there is Pascal Wehrlein.
And Wehrlein getting away. His last lap was good, but behind him, the quick lap times are being posted by Mercedes because Juncker Deer did a fastest lap. Now Robert Wickens has done the fastest lap of the race. Timo Scheider is still in 3rd place. As you see, Tombe gets sideways, and look at Petrov's Mercedes. That's got just so much better drive and traction off the corners. Through it goes. Petrov could be on here because he's up into 14th place for his best DTM finish by the very end. Robert Wickens then, fastest lap of the race. All the Mercedes are working their way up the order. Timo Scheider, still in 3rd place, may well get gazumped by the very end.
So here in replay then, as Vitaly Petrov and Tombe, and as you say, Petrov has just got so much grunt out of that corner, hasn't he? The car, has got the grip, and well, Petrov did the job. There is Marco Wittmann. Now he's past Augusto Farfus. Here is the championship prediction for you on screen. Marco Wittmann on 126 points and Christian Vitoris on 59. So Marco Wittmann, if that prediction is how we end, he would become a champion today. Oh, that's Petrov.
Had a spin there yesterday, didn't he, within the qualifying session, and some of the good work is undone. But it's Mercedes, Mercedes, Audi, Mercedes, Mercedes, Mercedes. So 5 in the top 6 of the 3-pointed stars. And with Robert Wickens having just done the fastest lap of the race, the gaps are coming down across all of those leading cars now because it's the ones behind Wehrlein and Vitoris doing the better lap times. Petrov, a bit too much wally, lost it, locked up, slithered around. So you can see the road is dry, you can see how the option tyre is working, but Wehrlein and Vitoris got away early on, so they've still got this big gap that they can preserve, I think, to the end of the race. Having said that, there's a lot that can shake out behind them.
Marco Wittmann now with the fastest lap, as you can see, a 1:24.509 coming from the Icewatch BMW driver, who has Paul Di Resta ahead of him. Wehrlein, Vitoris, Scheider, then it's Juncadella, Wickens, Di Resta, Wittmann, Farfus, Rockenfeller, Molina. That's the top 10.
On board with Wittmann then, who is in 7th place, as you say, having got ahead of Farfus. Rockenfeller is still 9th. So Wehrlein, Vitoris, Scheider, the top 3. You can see how the standings are on the screen at the moment. Juncadella 4th ahead of Wickens, Di Resta, Wittmann, Farfus, Rockenfeller, Molina. Absolute best middle sector, Paul Di Resta. His next target is Robert Wickens. Trouble is, he's 10.8 seconds behind him. Juncadella 7/10 away from Scheider. That's the one to watch. And there it is down at turn 1.
Yeah, absolutely right. Well, it'll be fantastic for Marco Wittmann to be able to take it here at the Lausitzring, if indeed he is able to come the race end. But what a turnaround in fortunes it'll be for Mercedes-Benz.
Just like at Osserschleben, we saw the cars go well in the wet. It was there that Di Resta got a 4th. It was there that Vitoris took a win. Di Resta has done the fastest lap. He's in the 23s now. So is Wittmann behind him. But Di Resta, the absolute best lap. He's absolutely charging. And you get the feeling now that Scheider is on borrowed time in 3rd place.
Yes.
Not because Timo is a slow driver, but just because the Mercedes has become the car to have in this race.
It's a question of when, not if, isn't it?
Which is the replay of Scheider's pit stop, fastest pit stop. Away he goes. Petrov, the 2nd fastest stop. Vitoris, the 3rd quickest. And Pascal Wehrlein is stretching the advantage because he's done the absolute best in Sector 1. Wickens, absolute best Sector 2. Joey Hand has just done the absolute best in the 1st sector, running in 12th place. And he's 1.4 seconds behind Martin Tomczyk. Now, on that basis, Joey Hand could get a point for 10th place.
As we look at Bruno Spengler, these the replays of the pit stop rankings. Christian Vitoris currently Let's hear from Verena now, who I understand has got Matthias Ekström.
Yes, indeed. Very bad luck for Matthias Ekström. Eki, how frustrating is it for you if something like that happens in a pit stop?
Yeah, I mean, it's, for sure it's not nice, but it's not so much I can do now. I mean, I think it was last year it happened once as well, and this year again, so not so nice for sure. I mean, still, we were not racing for the win, but we were racing for a top 5 probably, so it's a race weekend to forget. Still, qualifying was good, so that's what we take with us.
One more question. You had a spin in the beginning of the race. What happened there?
What?
You had a spin in the beginning of the race. What happened there?
No, I never spun. I went offline. And
yeah.
I went off the track in the fast one, right-hander once. Missed the line a bit, just understeered off and lost a couple of seconds, and then back on track again.
And what's your prediction? What do you think? Do we have a new DTM champion today?
I don't know. I haven't looked it up, but most likely yes.
Thank you very much. Back to you guys.
Well done, Verena, in terms of getting hold of Matthias Ekström, who, as always, tells it the way it is, doesn't he?
Doesn't try and dress it up, accepts that it was his fault for making that mistake and doesn't blame the guys in the pit lane.
No.
Rolls with it, doesn't he? Because he's had so much success with Audi, he knows that you can have the occasional bit of finger trouble, and that's really what it was, just a little bit keen, only by fractions of a second to drop down the car, and that's the indication for the driver. As soon as you feel the car being dropped down, off you go, and just was a bit too premature by the team. Robert Wickens, fastest lap of the race. Marco Wittmann now, interestingly, the fastest lap, and that means that Wittmann is coming back at Paul de Resta for 6th place, but we're into the 21s now, the high 21s admittedly.
And of course, we've just been advised on screen that DRS has been enabled.
Yeah.
So now, as you see that fastest lap from Marco Wittmann on 1:21.997, they can use DRS. So Wehrlein, Vitoris, Timo Scheider, still hanging on in there at the moment, isn't he? Ahead of Juncadella, 6/10 between Scheider and Juncadella last time around for P3 and P4. But we're watching Marco Wittmann here, and over the last 3 laps, the difference between Wittmann and Paul de Resta.
You've got to say, though, it's an impressive run, this, by Pascal Wehrlein, because he's leading for the first time, took his first pole position, and he could be, of course, a first-time race winner, and potentially the youngest race winner in the history of the DTM as well. But he leads the way by 10.5 seconds, and in very trying conditions, he's driven almost faultlessly, hasn't he? That one tiny error that we saw coming towards the end of the lap, but other than that, he's gone really strongly. And almost every lap, somebody else does an absolute best in a sector as the road continues to dry.
You mentioned the one error that we've seen from Pascal Wehrlein. Look how many errors we've seen from some of the old guard in DTM as well. I mean, the conditions are so challenging for those drivers out there. As Paul de Resta and Marco Wittmann continue their battle then. This for P5 and P6. Sorry, for P6 and P7.
Now, interestingly, Scheider is a fraction quicker than Vitoris. Juncadella is quicker than the 3 ahead of him. He's running in 4th place, so it's still got the chance, maybe, of concertinaing up a little bit up front. Wehrlein doesn't have to win by an enormous margin. He just wants to win, doesn't he? So it doesn't really matter whether he's 10.5 or 5.5 seconds ahead. Vitaly Petrov has now done an absolute sector best, and this is Marco Wittmann's car just sparking a little bit as it finds some of the bumps around the Euro Speedway at Lausitz. The race leader has now done 37 laps. He's gone across the timing line, and the advantage that Wehrlein has will confirm as soon as Vitoris goes through, which he now does. 10.7 seconds.
So Wehrlein looking very comfortable. He's not under pressure. He's got a nice margin, and now here comes this battle for P3. Timo Scheider in the Audi, then it is Danny Juncadella on his tail now. So Danny Juncadella again with a Mercedes car, and the conditions, everything just playing into the Mercedes hands here, and we've not said that too often this season. So now is it a question of when, not if, that Danny Juncadella is going to be able to find a way past that car of Timo Scheider?
He does need to get on with it, because behind Robert Wickens is lapping quicker. The downside is potentially that Juncadella gets stuck behind Timo Scheider, and Robert Wickens, who's just done the absolute best in the first sector, might be able to close. He's taken half a second out of Juncadella in sector 1 alone. Now, granted, he's got to make up 9.5, but half a second has gone in 1/3 of a lap, effectively. Yes. So he's on a mission, that is for sure. There must be some rather happier people in the Mercedes camp today. How about this? 3 wide, Tombay, Paffett in the middle, bodywork goes a-flying, and Jamie Green was the other one. Gary Paffett went for a gap, and as Green came across and took the line, Gary rather got pincered in the middle.
Yes, he did a bit, didn't he? And lost a big chunk of the Euronics bodywork. You can see they're laying at the side of the track as well, with his charge from Paul de Resta there. Now, we've seen a lot of people go offline there, haven't we? Yeah. And Paul de Resta managing to just bring it back out onto track, but losing a big chunk of time.
And he'd already lost the place to Marco Wittmann, so here comes Wittmann now back into the top 6. One hand on the Champions Trophy. Comes up over the timing line. We're on lap 39 here. Robert Wickens' fastest lap of the race at 21.0. And this is Paul de Resta into the pit lane.
And, well, he locks the front end up just before the pit entrance line. I wonder if this is going to be...
I wonder if it's overheating, because look at the front of the car. It's absolutely full of grass, because he had that moment and ran wide, and it may be, look how green the front of it is. If it's suddenly swallowed all of that grass, it could well be an overheating engine that's done for him.
And at the end of Paul de Resta then. Here it is in replay, the incident, and this is Wittmann getting past.
So again, that's BMW traction out of a corner, isn't it, that we've seen before. But this is de Resta going wide, and look, because he hits the grass...
Acts like a plough, doesn't it?
Yeah, the front just fills up, and straight away that's going to cause it to overheat. So, that takes de Resta out of the game. It releases some of the pressure off Wittmann. It brings Farfus up one place, and Timo Scheider has just done the fastest lap of the race, a 1:20.8. So, having said that it was when, not if, Juncker got past him, Timo Scheider is responding, except Wickens has gone even quicker for the fastest lap of the race. This is like qualifying and a race all thrown into one. The lap times are coming down, and there's de Resta out of the race after what had been, in fairness, from right near the back. He started 21st, a very, very good drive by the former champion, the youngest champion in DTM's history. And this is the man who looks as though he's going to be the next champion in DTM's 30-year history. Marco Wittmann out on track now, running 6th, and in a championship which, of course, had 7 former champions coming into this year. It could well be that we have 8 people with a DTM title to their name going to the next round at Zandvoort and then to Hockenheim, because Wittmann is going to secure the crown seemingly with 2 races to spare.
Well, that pincer movement we saw earlier on, which involved Tombay and also Gary Paffett, and of course Jamie Green, that is going to be under investigation.
Poor old Jamie Green. Almost everything seems to be involved in some manner, doesn't it? Whether it's a drama on track or now anything to do with the stewards getting involved. But Jamie is still soldiering on in 12th place, and we're not done yet. Did I tell you that Scheider has gone quicker again? A 1:20.4 is the fastest lap. Rockenfeller having a go at Farfus. This is for 7th. Molina is 9th, tucked up behind them. And Joey Hand has got the point for 10th place now. He's managed to work his way up the order. You might say that's partly down to this type of track. It's a kind of American sort of circuit, isn't it? With the oval and the roval bit, the infield course. Right, being reported to the stewards is the incident between Adrian Tombay, Jamie Green and Gary Paffett. Hope the stewards aren't on an early flight. The cars come over the timing line then, and you've got Farfus defending from Rockenfeller. This is for 7th place. Molina tries to buy into it as well.
So on lap 40 of 52, 14 and a bit minutes left on the clock. We're on board with Mike Rockenfeller. Wehrlein leading now by just under 12 seconds over Christian Vittoris as we take a look at Mike Rockenfeller hard at work there, and Joey Hand buying into this battle as well.
And it's going to go time, isn't it? Not laps, of course, now, given the conditions. Rockenfeller right on the back of Farfus. This still for 7th place. And look, that line is getting longer and longer and longer. Hand 10th, Tomczyk 11th have joined this battle pack, being held up a bit, really, by Farfus.
So Rocky needs to get past this BMW ahead. Great to hear the sounds of the car then as Mike Rockenfeller absolutely nails it around this Lausitzring circuit. But Farfus doing a grand job in backing them up because they cannot find a way past. Wehrlein leading now by 12 seconds.
And Vittoris being caught by Scheider. The gap 2nd to 3rd is down to 5.1 seconds. Rockenfeller here was slower in sector 1, but fractionally quicker in sector 2 than Farfus. He's got Molina and then Hand and then Tomczyk right up behind him. Look, they go to the dry line across the start and finish line, move back up to the wall to get the line for turn 1. And this is Rockenfeller's view, and he is trying to attack and defend at the same time. Life for the reigning champion is very busy indeed, as in comes Tombe now. Now, he was involved in the incident with Green and Paffett, and I fear this may be damage that has done for him.
Yes, I think you could be right. So Adrian Tombe then in the Audi into the pit lane, and it might be the end of Adrian Tombe's race. Certainly looks that way, doesn't it? And just looking at the damage potentially there, and here's a replay of that incident.
I was just wondering whether he had a puncture, because he's gone up the inside of Jamie Green.
Yes.
And just that last shot we had of Tombe in the pit lane. Yes, he has. Right front's gone down, hasn't it, in that clash? So that's what it is. It is a puncture. So Adrian Tombe had to limp it round a whole lap, because that was at the last corner, and his race is effectively over now. The gap between Vitoris and Scheider, 5.1, becomes 4.2. Timo Scheider is in the 19s now, and that is Joey Hand, who is off the road. He was in 10th position, but he's back onto the circuit now and continues. Let's see how he got there. He was having a go to get past Mike Rockenfeller, went up the inside and kaboom! Managed to make contact with him, lost it, nails his foot to the board, spins himself out of the drama, but he was kind of up the inside and then just slithered into Rockenfeller. Mike did a good job to hang on to that because he was knocked sideways, but yeah, I'm afraid Joey Hand has taken himself out of the points and gives a place to Tomczyk, who also got past the recovering Rockenfeller. So Tomczyk now is 9th, and he, don't forget, started 23rd.
Well, we've had plenty to talk about, haven't we? Pascal Wehrlein leads this race. We have 11 minutes left, and Pascal Wehrlein leads this race by just a shade under 13 seconds.
Whereas Vitoris to Scheider is down to 3.6, and Marco Wittmann looks as though he's going to be DTM champion. And of course, significant, it's another champion for BMW on the Mark's return to the DTM. Bruno Spengler having won the championship for them a couple of years back. Now, Marco Wittmann, incident under investigation between cars 1 and 4. That was the Hand Rockenfeller interface, and so Joey Hand is going to be looked at for that move up the inside. We're now on to lap number 44, and we've got 10 more minutes of the race remaining. There is Wittmann, champion-elect, remember, because his championship rivals have been in the wars and are not going to score well. It will be Vitoris potentially to move up to 2nd, but even he is too far back to be able to threaten by the end of the season. 3.6 Vitoris to Scheider.
Here is our championship prediction if it stays this way. Marco Wittmann on 128 points, which means Christian Vitoris, as you said, up to 2nd on 59 points, and Matthias Ekström, of course, DNF in this race. We've already spoken to him. Verena has spoken to him. Would be P3. That's the prediction at the moment. So the man that you're looking at in the center of your screen, all things being equal, but we still have 9.5 minutes of this race to run. Well, new DTM champion, potentially. He's running P6 at the moment. The Icewatch BMW car driven by Marco Wittmann, and what a stellar season he has had thus far, with another 2 rounds to come. Let's not forget, you know, we're off to Zandvoort and we're off to Hockenheim as well. There's Wehrlein now. Wittmann's car really sparks as he dives to the drier part of the line.
And here is somebody whose best finish in a DTM car was 8th last year, and this year he has just been almost in a different league. I was talking to Jamie Green last night, and the question was posed to him by a journalist as to what is... That's Martin who's gone off, Wittmann's teammate. He is going to recover as we get the driving standards flag for Martin. Jamie Green was asked, what is it that makes Wittmann so good? He said, well, I don't know, and I don't think even some of the people in BMW know, because here and again at the Nürburgring, he has been the standout driver for BMW, and the others just haven't been able to get near. Martin, DTM first season, has dug himself out of the gravel. Fair play for that, and will rejoin on track just ahead of his teammate. He's gone a lap down, though, now. Maxime Martin, winner at Moscow. You've got to say that Wehrlein and Vitoris have both done excellent jobs up front. Now, what about Vitoris to Scheider? It was 3.1, it's 2.8. Can 2nd place change before the end?
It's possible, isn't it? Well, we're staying with Marco Wittmann at the moment as the BMW is pushed around this Lausitzring circuit by the driver who has had a phenomenal season. Crosses the line now in P6. Great to see him at work here in the BMW. We have 7.5 minutes left to run. Lap still at the top of your screen. We're predicting that that's going to change to time. And the leader of the race, Pascal Wehrlein, some 13 seconds ahead of Christian Vitoris, who's currently P2. Then it's Timo Scheider, P3. Juncker Deller is P4. Then it's Robert Wickens, P5. Then this man, or that man, it was Marco Wittmann, P6. This is our race leader with the GUIX livery on the car that has been the must-have car on this track. Today, it's Pascal Wehrlein,
who now leads by 13.7 seconds, and he just drove away early on, didn't he? And as his car was working well on the wet tyres, and he got them up to temperature and was able to push on cold rubber early, so he left everybody else squabbling behind, and that's really what helped to open up the gaps. Vitoris has responded to the challenge of Scheider, so that gap has sort of stabilised now. Their last lap times were split by only 1/1000th of a second. A Mercedes 1-2 is something that was looking very unlikely at the start of the season, but there is Vitoris in second spot, and Scheider has certainly not given up, and nor is Juncker Deller, who's just done the absolute best in the first sector. Juncker Deller has fallen away from Scheider to the tune of 2.5 seconds, but he's still pushing as best he can.
Yes. There's Vitoris going through. There is Timo Scheider just in the middle of your picture right now. And then see the car of Danny Juncker Deller. So Timo Scheider then, P3. Take a podium with both hands, wouldn't he?
Absolutely right. And Bruno Spengler back into the pit lane. What has really been a race to forget. This is his 4th trip down the pit lane.
Yes, he comes into the pit lane from what was P16.
Another set of tyres ready for him. So he will now go onto the prime tyre. That should see him to the end, which can't come quickly enough for him, I think. He was saying pre-race that it would have to be clever on strategy, and you never know with the weather conditions, but it's really gone against him, I'm afraid, this race. So, Wehrlein, 13.5 seconds up the road. He is set to celebrate a race win. So too Mercedes, but at BMW, they've got the champagne on ice because very soon they're going to herald another DTM champion.
Yes, you can see the sense of anticipation in the garage. We look at the Ice Watch driver that is Marco Wittmann, who is currently on track P6. And, well, he's not going to be challenged by Augusto Farfus, barring any errors. And, well, Marco Wittmann here at the Lausitzring with the falling off of his nearest points competitors. Well, he'll be going to the next round of the DTM for 2014, potentially as the champion. So Marco Wittmann, as he sparks that BMW around this Lausitzring circuit. Pascal Wehrlein now 13.5 seconds to the good in P1. Just on 4 minutes left to run in this DTM race here at the Lausitzring. And, well, Pascal Wehrlein and Christian Vitoris doing an outstanding job for Mercedes-Benz. There is our race leader, Pascal Wehrlein, who, as you said, right at the very start of the race, that's when he just nailed the gap, wasn't it? You know, at the very, very beginning, he was just away and gone and just gradually kept build that lead until he'd got such a cushion that it was always going to be difficult to get on terms with him, whatever the strategy.
And he has driven so well. He has kept the opposition behind. He's never really had to do that much defending because he was able to build that gap. That one slight error he made was soon put to the back of his mind, and he was able to build the advantage. He lost the lead on the pit stops, but as it cycled through, so he got it back. Here is Petrov versus Paffett. Vitaly Petrov wants that place, Gary, and he's going to have it because they lean on each other going to turn 1. Vitaly Petrov up into 12th. He's set for his best DTM finish. Again, it's another Mercedes charging up the order. Jamie Green has just had another pit stop, incidentally, and is heading down the pit road once more, and it is to retire this time. So a race that started off looking pretty promising for him ends up in retirement. Big, big disappointment for Jamie Green. We've got 3 more minutes to go now.
So there is Christian Vitoris and Timo Scheider, and the gap has visibly come down, hasn't it?
I mean, it's been coming down and down and down since they went onto the option tyre, but Scheider has driven his best race of the season without question here. He's reminding people why he's a double champion. And where do you find the next Audi? You've got to go down to 9th and Mike Rockenfeller. And here is Scheider, who's run at the front, chasing the Mercedes all day. He's never had quite the pace, but on racecraft and perhaps on a bit of guile, he's there at the end and he's still doing his best to gain 1 more spot. And he's just done the best middle sector of anybody. He's taken 3 tenths out in the middle sector alone.
Well, right at the close of this race, Scheider, of course, has got the benefit of DRS, hasn't he? He's going to be able to be on Vitoris here, and is it going to change? Well, what are we down to? Last minute and a half or so. Here comes Timo Scheider then. Christian Vitoris takes a very middle line down the home straight here. He has to defend the inside, then dives to the outside, which is the drying line. And Scheider gets a little bit closer.
I still think there's time for this lap and 1 more, so we will do the 52 laps. It's just going to converge time and laps, I predict, and therefore Scheider has got time and opportunity left in which to have a go at this. So the battle is for second place. Vitoris versus Scheider. It's going to be another winless race for Audi, seemingly, but second place would at least be a good consolation prize.
Great replay of the DRS being deployed there to enable Scheider to get right on to the back of Christian Vitoris. Whilst all this is going on, Pascal Wehrlein having a very comfortable time out front, 14.6 his margin. And here comes Scheider once again on Christian Vitoris. Vitoris protecting the inside line, dives to the outside to get the right line through the corner now. And Scheider is right with him, but at the moment just can't find a way past the Mercedes ahead.
But perhaps he doesn't need to try here because he wants to be close enough back into that DRS zone, doesn't he? And as long as he can stay on the tail and be close enough, then it should all add up for him round about now. Down goes the wing, DRS is enabled, and Timo Scheider for Audi comes up the inside. Is he going to be able to do it? No, he can't quite do it there on the inside. Vitoris defends, going on to the last lap for all he is worth. Scheider has got the run in a straight line, but he's on the outside. His nose is in front, but he's going to have to brake earlier. Can he go all the way around the outside? No, and he's going to lose too much time there. That may well have torn it. Vitoris now, I think, is safe.
Do you know what? That was brilliant driving from Christian Vitoris along that start-finish straight. He knew exactly where to put that car to be able to just defend. As we were looking at the Wittmann family in the garage there is Marco Wittmann then heading towards the DTM Championship. He's got another lap to complete.
And while we get excited about Wittmann and the championship, Pascal Wehrlein is set for his first victory as well, so don't take anything away from Wehrlein. Who would have predicted, though, the pace of the Mercedes in this race? Because 4 of the top 5 are 3-pointed stars. And what a drive by Timo Scheider, who has worked so hard to stay up there with Christian Vitoris. Yes, he lost out in that first sector, but he's doing his best to fight back as up towards the line comes Pascal Wehrlein.
And Pascal Wehrlein takes the win. He takes the win here at the Lausitzring. What a phenomenal race for Pascal Wehrlein. He has not put, barring one small error, a foot wrong.
And then for second place, they're going to be nose to tail across the timing line. It is Vitoris ahead of Scheider. Daniel Juncker is going to be 4th. 5th should be Robert Wickens. And this man is heading for a championship.
Marco Wittmann, who has had an outstanding season in 2014 in this Ice Watch BMW. Well, He may only be driving towards 6th place here at the Lausitzring, but in every single race ahead and behind, he has done everything he needed to do. As he heads towards the line, he becomes the 2014 DTM champion. Marco Wittmann, what a star you are!
He's the 5th driver to have won the title in a BMW, and isn't it fitting in the 30th year of DTM's existence that it's a BMW that wins in 2014. It was a BMW 635 CSI that won in the first year of the DTM back in 1984 in the hands of Volker Strýček. So if you believe in karma or something along those lines, it kind of fits. But in a very significant year in the history of the DTM, the history now is bookended by BMW champions, and how the category has moved on from the Group A Plus days of 1984 to these purpose-built race cars that you have in DTM now, these 4-litre V8s, and Marco Wittmann is absolutely elated. So no doubt is Jens Marquardt down in the pit lane.
Yes, here's a very, very happy Jens Marquardt hugging the parents of Marco Wittmann. Obviously a very, very emotional moment. Jens Marquardt, just quickly, congratulations. You did such a phenomenal job. Marco Wittmann is a DTM champ 2014. How happy could you be?
Well, I didn't do a job. They did a job. Marco did a job. The team, everybody. Fantastic, fantastic. Tough race today. Really hot out there. A lot to talk about afterwards, but in the end, it doesn't count. We won the championship. Marco won the championship, and this is fantastic.
Phenomenal. Go celebrate. Congratulations. Back to you guys.
Thank you very much, Verena, for being straight in there and getting hold of Jens Marquardt, who, as always, whatever, it always tells it the way it is. And Jens Marquardt, of course, absolutely delighted, but the very first to say, I didn't do it, it was the team and it was the driver.
Delighted Mercedes personnel as well. Wolfgang Schattling, who is in charge of the DTM project for many, many years, the PR supremo for Mercedes-Benz Motorsport, but now the man given the task of running the DTM project, and will be very happy indeed. And Angelika Wittmann, Marco's mum, is a very happy lady indeed, Verena.
Oh, she certainly is. Here she is, the mother of Marco. Sind Sie stolz auf Ihren Sohn? Was geht in Ihnen gerade vor?
Total stolz. Ich kann es gar nicht in Worte aussprechen. Also wir sind alle happy.
So his mother said she's very, very proud, absolutely happy, obviously. And did you think that he could make it today? Haben Sie damit gerechnet, dass er es heute schafft?
Wir haben es gehofft, es war schwer durch das Regen noch. Also wir waren ein wenig so im Zwiespalt, aber umso besser ist es jetzt.
Absolut, herzlichen Glückwunsch. Obviously, she said they were hoping he would make it today, but they weren't quite sure. But he did. He is the new champ 2014, Marco Wittmann. What a job he did. Back to you.
Thank you, Verena, proving she's not only a great presenter, but jolly good translator as well, if I may say. There, the champion dives to the top of the car. Of course, Pascal Wehrlein winning the race. Christian Vittoris P2, Timo Scheider P3, but taking the championship for 2014, it is Marco Wittmann.
And all of his engineers have just sprinted up the pit lane, but also heading in that direction are the Mercedes personnel, because they have a race win to celebrate, a 1-2 indeed, a 1-2-4-5 to celebrate. So as Marco Wittmann is delighted with his championship, so there are other good news stories through the pit lane, and Pascal Wehrlein's first win is one of them. Mustn't overlook that, and it's tempting to focus on Marco Wittmann, but Pascal Wehrlein has driven an absolutely brilliant race. He was brought at the 11th hour into the DTM last season, but Marco Wittmann last season celebrated 8th as his best finish, and within 12 months he celebrates 4 wins this season, and now the championship title as well.
Absolutely extraordinary performance from Marco Wittmann this season, and you're absolutely right. As we see him in replay, crossing the line to become champion 2014 here at the Lausitzring. And let's hear from him now. Marco Wittmann, you are the champion.
Yes, here he is, the new champion, Marco Wittmann, obviously just hugging his mother. Such an emotional moment. Tears flowing. Obviously, I don't want to interrupt there right now. But here he is, the new DTM champ 2014. Marco, just quickly, how happy could you be?
Amazing, amazing feelings. It was a tough race, very, very difficult. I tried to stay out of contact with everybody, but yeah, just amazing. So many emotions. Finally we did it, and it's just great.
This really was your masterpiece today.
Yeah, for sure. It was great.
Congratulations, go celebrate. shaking all over. Back to you guys.
Verena, well done for getting him so very quickly. Our DTM champion for 2014, who has tears in his eyes. And I have to say something he said there, which you and I said. He did drive with his head today, didn't he?
Absolutely.
He didn't get involved in unnecessary conflict, which he could have done on the track, and he just nailed it and brought it home.
We also said over the course of the season how the DTM is changing. Some of the old guard perhaps being outpaced a bit by the young guns. The new generation of DTM driver, Marco Wittmann, has a long future ahead of him, not only in the DTM, but perhaps with BMW as well, bearing in mind it has its GT project as well, and you can imagine him being on the books at BMW for many years to come. The championship is one story, the race result is another.
Pascal Wehrlein takes that win with Christian Vitoris P2 and Timo Scheider P3 with Junkadella, Wickens, then Wittmann, Farfus, Tomczyk, Molina, Rockefeller, Joey Hand and Vitaly Petrov rounding out the first page.
Gary Paffett 13th ahead of Maxime Martin and the troubled Bruno Spengler and Edo Mortara. The rest retirements with damage or mechanical woes, but it has been a very hectic race. But the only person potentially who will look back on it and think that was relatively calm is Pascal Wehrlein, because he got away early doors, and a hugely emotional Marco Wittmann continues the celebrations. There is Pascal Wehrlein, who says, what about me? I want to race today, you know. It's not all about Marco Wittmann, but again, it's another of the young guns. Here you've got Pascal Wehrlein, the youngest race winner in DTM.
I recall a conversation you and I had in Oschersleben, I think it was, and it was at that point that it was really evident, wasn't it, that things were changing in the DTM, that and there is Marco Wittmann being congratulated by Jens Marquardt, the very boss of BMW, who, let's be truthful, has put his faith and his trust in a young gun, hasn't he, to come in, and has put his support behind him, and well, Marco has delivered.
Came out of BMW's single-seater program, winner of the Formula BMW World Final, and there, with 2 races to go, is how the championship looks.
128 points to Marco Wittmann, to 59 for Christian Vitoris, 56 for Matthias Ekström, 56 for Mortara, 54 for Rockefeller. P2 and P3 in the championship is going to be interesting.
Absolutely right.
Still a lot to play for as we go to Zandvoort and then on to the final at Hockenheim.
Just looking to see where the next BMW driver is. Bruno Spengler 6th. It's not just Marco that's emotional, so is the rest of the family and the engineers as well, who have lived the season with him. In 1984, Volker Strycek was a champion for BMW. In 1987 and 89, it was the M3s of Eric van der Poel and Roberto Ravaglia. 2012, it was Bruno Spengler. And in 2014, in this 30th celebratory year of the DTM's history, so Marco Wittmann, the second youngest ever champion in the category's history, puts his name on the list of BMW's champions. And lots of BMW flags in the grandstands will no doubt fly when he goes to the podium, as the drivers now are being rounded up. And let's hear from Pascal Wehrlein. 15 seconds ahead he was by the end, and a great drive by Pascal. He is with Verena.
Absolutely, what an amazing job you did, 15 seconds ahead of the pack. I mean, from what moment on did you know you're going to rock this?
When we changed to option tires, I think I increased a bit the gap to Christian, and then it was just driving it home. I was always quicker, and just at the end, the 10 last laps, my engineer told me, slow down a bit, drive it home, and yeah, that's it.
Quite honestly, you look so calm. What is going on inside of you?
Yeah, I'm quite happy inside.
I hope so.
Yeah, it was amazing the whole weekend. I mean, yesterday in free practice it was not that good. In qualifying I did the pole, and in the race it was quite tricky at the start. But then at the end we won thanks to the team. I think they did an amazing job. Pit stop went well, strategy was good, so I cannot complain today.
And do you think it's a change of generations? It's youngster time, you the youngest winner and Wittmann the youngest champion ever?
Yeah, maybe.
Hopefully. All right, well, a very happy Pascal. Even though if you can't see it that much, I think he's trembling inside, I'm sure. Back to you guys.
Thanks, Verena, very much. He is cool, calm.
Absolutely.
The guy, he's enjoying it, but he's taking it all in his stride. Of course, we'll be heading up to the podium in due course as well. And, what an eventful weekend we've had. From the shortened qualifying sessions yesterday to an extremely dramatic race today. What a weekend we've had to see the 2014 DTM champion. And Pascal Wehrlein taking the win here in the race as well. You can see lots of bods assembled up there on the podium balcony. Drivers will be ushered up there very, very soon indeed. And just looking at the point situation, P2, P3, P4, P5, all very, very close. And as we discuss that, we do look at the 2014 champion, Marco Wittmann, who his P6 was enough today, with others falling by the wayside, for him to take the championship for 2014.
And he will go to the podium as well as the champion. And to clinch it in such a competitive environment with 2 rounds to go is very, very good for him indeed. Shows just what a consistent season he's had. Timo Scheider, fantastic to have him back on the podium, because it's been a pretty barren season for him. Timo's best had been a 5th this year, but he's had a lot of bad luck along the way.
Great drive from Christian Vitouris as well, and we've seen brilliance from Christian Vitouris earlier this season, and he just reinforced that today with a fine drive to take P2.
Yeah, 11th he started, and because the Mercedes hasn't been that competitive this season, it's tempting to sometimes ignore the Mercedes drivers, but again, in the wet conditions, the car has worked well, like it did at Otterschleben. I know that had a lot down to do with the strategy and tyre choice, but today all the Mercedes have looked good in these conditions, and it does prove that the car is continuing to make steps forward.
So there, Pascal Wehrlein, our race winner, being congratulated on his way up to the podium, just behind the podium right now, as Manfred Sandbiegler there from Hankook Racing Tyres. You can just see Timo Scheider to the right of Pascal Wehrlein there.
Pascal, a winner here in his early single-seater days in the Formula ADAC Masters Championship, and he comes now onto the podium as a winner for the first time in his career of a DTM race. So Lausitzring honours to Mercedes and Pascal Wehrlein. Christian Vitouris comes to the second step on the podium, to a great reception, you have to say. And then Timo Scheider for Audi for 3rd place. And Mega Marco shirts being worn by
printed, haven't they?
The BMW team.
Und damit kommen wir jetzt zur Siegerehrung für Pascal Wehrlein, die Deutsche Martin Marx. Aufs Podium der Vertreter der HWA AG. Großer Applaus.
Mercedes team representative is there as well. Handshakes and congratulations. And now we can have the national anthem for the winning driver.
The national anthem plays out for Pascal Wehrlein, who takes the win at the Lausitzring.
A 3rd win of the season for Mercedes, and Matthias Kieper is the man who hands over the very impressive winner's trophy to a delighted Pascal Wehrlein, who celebrates a maiden win in the DTM. The team's trophy presented as well to the HWA squad, and then the trophies for 2nd and 3rd. But of course this is going to be a slightly longer podium than normal because we have a champion.
Yes, we wondered, didn't we? And Christian Vitouris receives his trophy. And then Timo Scheider receiving his. We wondered coming into this whether it would happen this weekend or not. And I think just by virtue of the fact how good Wittmann has been over the course of the season, it was always pretty likely, wasn't it? But let's not lose sight of the fact that it's a fine, fine win for Pascal Wehrlein. And great to see Christian Vittoris and Timo Scheider on the podium as well. It's time for the Henkel Trocken.
Not just was that a great drive by Pascal Wehrlein to score the win, but to win it by such a margin as well.
Yes.
I know that the key opposition, Christian Vittoris, had to work up from 11th and therefore lost time working his way through traffic. But Wehrlein, even when he did start to make that little bit of a mistake and lose time, was straight back up to his proper pace and on the next lap and never looked back, did he?
To be fair, it was only one error, wasn't it?
Yeah. And so there are photographs still to be taken, interviews to be conducted. And Pascal Wehrlein will head for the press conference as we look at the top three finishers. Timo Scheider's best finish of the season proves that he ain't lost his touch, and the double DTM champion in the Auto Test Audi comes home for third place, and in the end he was 1/5 of a second behind Christian Vittoris, who comes through for second place. He won in the wet at Ossersleben, second in these damp and greasy conditions at Euro Speedway Lausitz, but the race winner again for Mercedes, having done a great job yesterday in qualifying to put the car on pole position, Pascal Wehrlein. He came here 17th in the championship, having been rather a bit part player for the bulk of the season. Suddenly, he's a history-making DTM youngest ever winner.
Well, the Mercedes-Benz cars here at the Lausitzring, conditions certainly suited to them. And I just wonder whether perhaps the conditions rather masked the fact that the progress Mercedes had been making with the constant development of that car. They were on the back foot at the beginning of the season, but they have worked so very hard. Both the drivers, the engineers, the teams, to put that car back where it should be.
I think in part that is right. I mean, certainly the conditions, wet conditions, are a great leveller. But it may well be that the cars have made genuine progress. Now let's go back to Verena and carry on our story about the champion.
Yes, I'm here with the team principal, Stefan Reinhold. What an absolutely amazing job Marco Wittmann did and his team. How happy are you? And did you really think that he could manage it today?
No, after qualifying yesterday, of course, we really faced a difficult situation performance-wise, and today, again, with the weather, we didn't know what will happen in the end. And with Eki in the front, was not our weekend here until 2 or 2:30. So in the end, we are really happy. Marco, it's clear who is the champion also from that race here. Not with the top result, but how he managed the race. It's absolutely clear who is champion this year.
But I guess it wasn't the biggest surprise, because can we just see your your shirt, Mega Marco? That really, that's it. But you're drinking beer, not champagne?
Later on, yeah, we start slowly. I think it's better to start slowly. Then I will not manage until tomorrow morning otherwise.
So the plan is to celebrate till tomorrow morning?
It's up to the guys tonight. We will see how long we manage.
I think it's a good plan. Congratulations, and back to you guys.
Thank you, Verena. Stefan Reinhold clearly going to pace himself, isn't he, in terms of celebrations?
Absolutely right. And that's we talk about Marco Wittmann's turnaround in fortunes compared to last year. The team as well, because that was not really a top BMW team, but they've got on with the job and learnt, and just something this year. That car, that team, that driver combination all hooks up together so well. And Marco Wittmann it is who is the new champion, and he and the family, very emotional indeed. There in the pit lane, the replays of him straight out of the car. But it's a big deal to win a championship like this. So competitive. And Marco Wittmann, these are the replays of him crossing the line, perhaps in disbelief. But BMW, a 5th champion in its DTM history. And of course, this is a brand that was courted for so long after its withdrawal in the early 90s. And eventually, with the scaling down of a Formula One program, it said, yep, okay, we will come back to the DTM. And Jens Marquardt has overseen this campaign that has taken Bruno Spengler to the title, and now, of course, Marco Wittmann as well.
So we're standing by, press conference to come in due course, as we're continuing to see images of the celebrations going on. Mega Marco, 2014 champion.
And the celebrations have certainly started in the garage, haven't they? The music is on. And the flags are there, and Marco Wittmann just looking down onto the podium as to see whether there is going to be a podium for him, because there are still TV crews there, but he was heading in that direction. It may be, of course, he was just being whisked towards the press conference that will be coming up shortly. So as Stefan Reinhold takes his bottle of beer, gets ready to celebrate. 2 more races still to run in the championship this year. Zandvoort comes next at the end of September, and then the 3rd weekend in October, Hockenheim, for the traditional climax to the DTM season, along with the FIA Formula 3 European Championship, the Sirocco R Cup and Carrera Cup Deutschland as well. And in some respects, it's a shame that we go there not with a title fight. There are still, of course, the other places up for grabs. But today really now does revolve around Marco Wittmann. Pascal Wehrlein has been on the podium as a race winner, but Marco Wittmann now is the man of the moment, because he takes the championship with 2 rounds to go. And as others have had good and bad days, Marco Wittmann has just been so consistent this year. He's taken 4 wins anyway, but when he's not been on the top step, he's been scoring well, and that all adds up. Others have had bad luck. Sometimes it's been self-induced misfortune, but Marco Wittmann has driven a stellar season, and don't bet against another win or 2 even, perhaps, coming for the champion before the very end of the year. And the images of a celebrating champ straight out of the car, standing atop it and being able to celebrate here at the Lausitzring. The press conference will come next, and anticipate a delighted Marco Wittmann and Pascal Wehrlein, who was showing a bit more emotion on the podium than he did when he spoke to Verena, to be there in good voice. But the BMW teams still have to focus on the fact they've got 2 more races to come yet. The championship is far from over. Still, the work will continue. And the Wittmann family, after a long, hard slog to fund Marco's early career, now he's on the payroll as a factory BMW driver and DTM champion. It is quite a moment for the family, that is for sure. And for Jens Marquardt as well, who sees one of his protégés come through to win the championship. But Herbert and Angelika Wittmann, hugely proud of their son. Marco, no doubt, hugely appreciative of their sacrifices to get him to be the 2014 champion in the DTM. And so the Eurospeedway Lausitz has witnessed a very lively race indeed, perhaps not quite so lively for Pascal Wehrlein up front, but loads of drama, loads of talking points behind. The drivers have now made their way towards the media centre, ready for the press conference. The 3 winning cars, plus the champions car, sit at the foot of the race control building. The Mega Marco t-shirts are there for everybody. And as soon as the drivers and the team representatives are ready, then Peter Reichart, who will conduct the press conference, will be ready to speak to the top 3 and to the new champion as well. And it's time for a cigarette as well as a beer at BMW to unwind after a pretty stressful day, I would have thought, particularly for those running Marco Wittmann's car, where the pressure was on in that pit stop not to get anything wrong. Marco himself coped with the pressure and raced strongly all afternoon. DTM champion 2014. The other side of the garage, Maxime Martin, had a win at Moscow, not able to score a second victory today, but was competitive once more. And it's time, I think, now that we heard from the drivers once again. Peter Reichart is the man to conduct the press conference.
So, ladies and gentlemen, a very warm welcome from my side to this